right, let's look at the oil sector as the NNPCL, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, has suspended a Naira-For-Crude oil swap deal with domestic refiners, including Dangote and other private operators. What's going to be the implication of this? Are we likely to see an increase in the price of petrol, which we've seen has been dropping, going back to the rate, but depending on what obtains at the international market? So what's going to be the implication of this? What does it mean that the NNPCL has suspended the Naira-For-Crude oil swap deal with domestic refiners? So to handle this conversation, we have an energy expert, the CEO of Marv Energy, and is also the recent past Deputy Governor of Edo State, Engineer Omobayo Marvellous Godwin's FNSC. He is member, Human Capital Development representing Edo State under the office of the Vice President of Nigeria. I beg your pardon, is Chairman, Human Capital Development representing Edo State under the office of the Vice President of Nigeria. Member, Tax Reforms under the National Executive Council, and also member, Presidential Committee on Flood Control and Desertification under the supervision of the Vice President of Nigeria, His Excellency Kashim Shettima. It's great to have you here, Engineer Marvellous Omobayo.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. It's great to have you in the conversation today, being that this is your first love, the oil and gas industry, and you've been a key player in that industry for over 15 years now. So this report coming in that the NNPCL is suspending the Naira-For-Crude oil swap deal, what exactly is playing out here?
Thank you very much for having me once again. I'm happy to be back with the energy industry after my sojourn into the political space for 8-9 months. I can tell you very authoritatively that NNPCL is a company, it's not the conventional government arrangement. So all of that is mere rumor. They had a 6 months arrangement by way of lifting crude from NNPC. It is strictly business and nothing more. NNPC can do that with several refineries, whether in Nigeria or outside Nigeria. I'm aware that that contract is due to elapse at the end of March. So as it stands today, they still receive, in fact, as at today, as at the last count, nearly 50 million barrels of crude oil they have received since 2024 in October when they resumed and started work optimally, when they start optimal production. So I can tell you very authoritatively that everything is on course. There is no cause for alarm. It is just mere speculation. At the end of March, they will sit down again. It's a 6 months arrangement. So Dangote is at liberty. Beyond even getting crude from NNPC, it still source for product anywhere he can get it cheap and better. So it's not a question of whether he's getting crude from NNPC or not. It's not going to change the dynamics of the game because as it stands today, the price of crude oil is on the downside, and it's expected that products will keep coming down. It's not going to go up like so there should be no panic buying. Technical opinion, yes.
Okay, Your Excellency, thank you for those insightful comments. But a lot of people also have argued that the timing of this termination of the agreement is something that is suspect because, of course, 6 months from October 1 should have ended at the end of March. And why are we coming now? Is it a result of the price war going on between the petrol price of Dangote and NNPCL? It's a way of looking for competitive advantage. And where does this leave the final consumer at the pump price?
In my opinion, there's no war anywhere. That is the beauty of the regulation. So there is the room for competition. Dangote does not have retail outlets, even though they gave out window. Even NNPC retail outlet can also be a part of the window. For example, I know they have an affiliation with MRS. It is not just MRS. You have High Energy, you have AP or you call Photoye, and a host of them. So it's not a it's a that's why I say that is the beauty. So there is no war anywhere. If NNPC upstream is giving you crude and they're downstream, if they even have, if NNPC is able to import at 600 naira, for instance, they will not wait. You understand? They are going to get it and even crash the price further. So it's good for us, the masses. That's number one. It's on the one side. Number two, this will also speed up the rate at which we are trying to revamp the government refineries. There's been rumor that they've started operation, but that is not, we can't feel that impact just now. So it is a clarion call for them to wake up to the responsibility. So all of this is competition. When you have the two, three refineries working optimally, competing directly with Dangote, they are the ones with the crude. They have the first right of, if they have 10 million in their reserve, they may decide to not to give to Dangote and refine directly from their refinery, and Dangote can go straight to source for the crude. So I think it's a win-win for all of us. I don't call that war. It is pure economics. So when there's competition, the prices will go down, and I think it's good for us. So I forecast a situation where before September, by the grace of God, we should be buying petrol between 650 and 700 to be good for the citizens. Yes.
There's a second side to this conversation, and that is the impact of the Naira-For-Crude deal impact on the macroeconomic environment in Nigeria that is stabilizing the exchange rate. Don't you think that stopping this arrangement will find a way of affecting dollar crisis again?
Like I said, NNPC is a company. It's a business. They are purely into business. So that is why no wonder that agreement is for 6 months. So every 6 months it is going to be reviewed. So let us wait.
There with His Excellency Engineer Marvellous Omobayo, but he was reacting to questions on what the implication of this suspension of the Naira-For-Crude swap would be on the economy, given the benefits that have already accrued from it. We'll look into more aspects of the suspension of the Naira-For-Crude oil swap after this break. Stay tuned. All right, many thanks for being there. It's still the front burners in policy. Discuss has been on as we're looking at different policy issues. Now, the latest that we're looking at is a suspension of Naira-For-Crude oil swap by the NNPCL to local refiners. What's going to be the impact? We had our engineer Marvellous Omobayo talk about how it's business and it's not a war situation like the NNPC is trying to gain some advantage over the local refiners, for example, Dangote refinery. But this suspension, 6 months suspension for a review before going back to it, does it look like it's going to make the gains of the Naira-For-Crude swap not sustainable? There's going to be like some truncating and then it's going to be fluctuating.
It was unfortunate that we lost Omobola on the conversation. The point I was actually trying to raise was the fact that timing is quite important, especially when you're bringing out information. And just last week, a lot of people are saying Dangote is giving NNPC money for their run because petrol was selling at 9.25 on Dangote, and NNPC was selling at 9.45. And then all of a sudden, boom, Dangote is selling at 8.60. And then 1 week later, we saw NNPC coming to 8.60. So there seems to be the one dictating the forces in the market. And a lot of people wondering as to why NNPC, which of course is a national institution, should have been the one driving this goal of price reduction. Also given the fact that they have told us that their own refineries are working. Now, but we look at the substance of the release or the letter that was sent was the fact that, number one, they said, of course, the agreement was for 6 months. Nobody argued that. It took off in October 1. So if you look at it from your hand, this is just February, March, it should end by the end of March. We agreed. So at least we would have been waiting for the end of March for this news to come out. Secondly, they talked about that they have a crude swap arrangement that was going to end in 2030. But we also know that this crude swap arrangement was based on what we were producing at the time, and which was about less than 1.5 million barrels per day. But today, we are having excess of 700 barrels per day. So all these circumstances are what makes this kind of press release really very suspicious, or letter that was sent to the refineries very suspicious. But that said, is also to find that earlier on we were looking at the economy issues. And one of the issues that we talked about was the fact that the Naira is stabilizing. And one of the reasons why, of course, everybody seems to agree that the Naira has stabilized was the fact that we were not spending dollars to import crude, especially for the Dangote refinery. Question to ask is, has NNPC also find out with CBN that we have enough dollar now in case we have to import crude? Because this has to be sourced locally, because it will have a way of impacting the FS market. That if there's much demand on FS, because we're having about 6 modular refineries operating in Nigeria at the moment, and we're having Dangote, and we're having a lot of people who are coming on board. Now, if all these people have to go back again to the forest market, would that not hike the prices or the exchange rate? These are questions that need to be answered, and I believe that government agency must look at what is happening within the economic space. Yes, NNPC is a government-owned institution, yet they are there to make profit, but it must not be profit at the expense of the common people on the street. That's the point I was trying to raise.
Well, I think that your points are valid because let's look at it. If we had some gains because they were being able to buy crude with Naira, that also reflected in the Forex market and how much the pressure reduced. Now, if everybody has to begin to source Forex to be able to buy crude, it means that we're returning back to the era where there is so much of dollar scarcity or Forex scarcity, as the case may be. And I think that the advantage that the local refiners were beginning to have over the importers, because that they were paying in Naira, and then the importers were paying in dollars and actually importing in dollars as well. That advantage seems like it's going to be eroded with this suspension now. Though it's 6 months, but in 6 months a lot can happen. So if this gain started to culminate gradually, and then it got to this point where we're seeing that prices do drop, prices go up a bit, before you know the prices drop again because the local refiners are sort of having a way to breathe. Now, if they are pressured to, because they also have to think about how to shore up the deficits, because NNPCL is not even selling to them the right amount that they need. For the Dangote refinery, for instance, they're getting about 350 when they have a 650,000 barrels production capacity. So they have to buy elsewhere. And then when they're buying in Nigeria, they also have to pay with dollars. So I think that competition we're beginning to see, that growth and reflection of the deregulation of the sector sort of will be eroded, even if it's going to take another 6 months for we to come back to that system. But I think the NNPC should review that model of 6 months off, 6 months on. At the end of the day, it waters down the gains.
See, these are just technical analysis and every other excuse to put in place to try to confuse the whole situation or to divert our attentions away. We are making little gains because of the local refineries' access to crude, not with foreign currency, not with dollar, but with the Naira. And these gains are beginning to show their faces little by little. And now we have another policy somersault, which is now coming into place. It's going to suck away this gain, and we'll be back to square one. Why? For what purpose? Or what economic advantage do we start to gain by reverting to local refineries purchasing the product with dollars? What advantage do we gain?